guys, that's your Rich Legends. Welcome to the video. Sending some love, some positive vibes your way, especially if you need them out there today. So it's very clear to me after today's and yesterday's video now here on the channel that it's, yeah, we're definitely going to evolve to go well beyond just champion guides. I'm going to give you some just kind of off-the-cuff videos like I did yesterday, sharing my thoughts on my Finish Top 100 Live arena, what I liked about it, what I didn't like about it. And today, I want to actually cover the new champions inside the game. Now, this is a few days old, but they just went in-game, so I'm actually able to look at them and pull them up. And I have not watched anybody's content on any of these champions. I just wanted to say, by the way, isn't background battles awesome? Like, I didn't think I'd be enjoying it as much as I am, honestly, on my account. Like, it's nice to go in and kind of, what I found is it gives me time to actually go through and cleanse my gear a little bit more often versus always having a full inbox, just doing background battles. But, and there's something oddly rewarding about, like, collecting stuff while you're doing the dungeon in the background, you know, or just getting silver. You're like, oh, look at that. I got 21 million now. Ah, I have 22 million now. We'll see how much I have at the end of this video as I do Spider in the background. Anyway, I figured I would go through all these champions, kind of grade them out, sharing my initial thoughts on all these champs. So let's go ahead and get things started here. We're going to start in the kind of the order that they announced them. So we're going to start with the legendary Sylvan Watcher attack-based new champion, and it is Bladechorister Caldor. So, again, as I was saying, I haven't watched anybody's opinions on any of these champions, so this is truly just me off the cuff here. Bladechorister, I said Bladechorister. Bladechorister Caldor. I guess I'm kind of embarrassed to admit that I don't know what that means. Let's go ahead and look it up here. Chorister definition. Oh, okay. Well, that's what I thought it was going to be, but what does a chorus have to do with a blade? A chorister is somebody in a choir, especially a child or a young person. All right, doesn't really look like that, but he is obviously the Unity Lord here for Sylvan Watchers, completing all of our factions' Unity Lords. So it may be I don't know, a Druid Bard sort here. He looks pretty awesome, right? Pretty cool aesthetics here. His base stats, obviously he's going to be a nuker, 1663, very, very high base attack. His A1 is Dagger Song and AoE stun at 25% chance. Ignore 20% of target's resistance for each continuous heal buff on this champion. Okay, interesting. On the A2, Orchestra of War. Well, now we would definitely know what chorister means. Select a target. This is on a 3-turn cooldown. Both books go to the cooldown. If the target is an enemy, decreases the duration of all buffs on all enemies by 1 turn. Plays a poison debuff on all enemies for 2 turns, and an additional poison for 2 turns for each continuous heal buff on this champion. Well, I'm sure we can see where that A3 is going to be, right? The continuous heals. These debuffs cannot be resisted. Then instantly activates all poison debuffs on all enemies. Very interesting here. Wow, that's a wild skill, right? It really has echoes of Nell, who we just did a guide on, who places all these poisons that ignore block debuffs, right? And she has poison combustion in her kit as well, the mythical. So really a lot of poison synergy here. Very interesting ability, and we only read half of it. And the target's an ally, I imagine it does the same thing, but with continuous heals, right? Increase the duration of all buffs on all allies and instantly activates continuous heal buffs. Plays a perfect veil on this champion for 2 turns. Also continuous heal on this champion for 2 turns. Another continuous heal on each ally, each alive ally for 2 turns. Finally, fills this champion's turn meter by 15% for each buff or debuff placed by this skill. So that could easily be, let's see, an additional poison, so 4 enemies. It could be a 100% turn meter fill fairly easily. Interesting. Rhythms Crescendo. This is a 3-turn cooldown when booked, and we have, 4 books to go into it. So this is a faction ability number 1. Attacks 1 enemy before attacking, 100% chance to removing all buffs from the target, placing a decreased defense and a weaken on them for 2 turns. Ignores 20% of each target's resistance for each continuous heal buff on this champion. It also is an enemy max HP ability. Let's see if it's on hellhades.com yet to get the multipliers here, right? Bladechorister Caldor. Sorry, the first champion is going to be taking this long. It's not up on Hellhades yet. How about a Yumi Love? A Yumi Love does not have it either. Okay, so we don't have the multiplier on the attack, but it is an enemy of max HP. Removes all buffs from all enemies if the initial target is killed. That's one faction ally. 2 faction allies, 5% of target's defense for each poison debuff on them, and each continuous heal buff on this champion. And then 3 faction allies on the team. If the initial target's under a poison debuff, also attacks all other enemies. The damage dealt is proportional to the initial target's max HP and how many poison debuffs are on them. If the initial target is a boss or a minion, the damage dealt is equal to 10% of their max HP. All right, so pretty interesting ability, right? It could be busted, especially at full potential. And then the Sylvan Symphony, the passive, ignores 15% of the target's defense when attacking while under a perfect veil or veil. This champion receives 30% less damage from enemies not under veil or perfect veil. 1 faction ally, each continuous heal on this champion increases their crit rate by 20%. 2 faction allies, each time a continuous heal buff activates on this champion, also fills his turn meter by 8%. And then 3 faction allies, each time a continuous heal activates on this champion or an ally, increases champion's damage by 5% up to 150,000 extra damage. Man, very interesting champion. I mean, all these faction or these Unity champions are so hard to get. And then it becomes a question of, okay, can I form a team of 4 Sylvan Watchers or 5 or 6, depending on where you're playing in the game? Does that make sense? And for a lot of these, the answer is yes. A lot of the, look, we're seeing that with Fina, right? Seeing that with Teox, a bunch of them, right? The new dwarf faction Unity, right? See that with Valderon. There's a lot of really good champions out there. Volcanos. I say Valderon from Watcher Realms. I apologize. Volcanos, right? A lot of the magic, though, comes from these champions like Teox, these Unities, that you really don't need 3. Even sometimes you only need 1 other Unity champion on the team. He's a hard champion to judge. Again, without seeing him in action. We don't know the multipliers on any of these champions just yet. I like the continuous heal synergy. It reminds me of a really interesting combo for Chimera with Senna. Whenever a continuous heal buff activates on an ally, fills the turn meter of all allies by 5%. So now we're getting more turn meter fill. We're escalating the damage from Caldor as well. Overall, I'm going to give him he's a Unity. He looks awesome. We'll give enemy max HP ability, the potential to attack all enemies on this thing too. We'll give him an A+. We'll give him an A+. All right, next up is going to be the freebie. He's not going to be as enticing, Iudex, certainly, right, as the choir boy. Iudex Artor is going to be the free login champion. We get him by completing the calendar, right? He has speed in arena battles on his aura by 25%. Interesting. So he's a support champion. His damage scales off of attack. Attacks all enemies, heals all allies by 5% of this champion's max HP. A little bit unorthodox here. He's obviously not a damage dealer, because he scales off of attack, yet his attack is 980. So he's a support in every aspect of the word. We also want to build him with a lot of HP to get a better heal out of this A1, not with a lot of attack, even though he does have an AoE on that A1. He brings an increased attack, a strengthen, and a turn meter fill by 15%. On the incense, of inspiration is A2. His A3 is a single target revive on a 4-turn cooldown, 50% HP, 50% turn meter. Increase attack on them for 1 turn, then activates the revived ally's default skill targeting the enemy with the lowest HP. Decent revive, nothing crazy, right? I like the extra activates allies default skill against the enemy lowest HP. That can be nice, can be interesting in the arena as well. But I would not say this is like one of the more powerful legendary revives in the game. Sentence to Life, his passive, is a 3-turn cooldown if an enemy is killed by an ally's default skill after being revived by Revival Mandate, resets the cooldown of the Revival Mandate. So essentially, you revive an ally, they attack with their default skill, targeting the enemy lowest HP, they get the kill, you reset the revive. Cool, not busted, not broken, not like insanely amazing. But it's a cool little add-on, right? And then the speed in arena battles. Overall, I'm not super high on this champion, but at the end of the day, he is free, and I do truthfully feel like a lot of players could use him as their turn meter booster inside the arena, maybe even a secondary turn meter booster if you already have Arbiter. Just have him go after. I mean, it's a bit redundant though, you know, things I don't like about him. Let me start with that, right? I don't mind this ability at all. I wish it was a 20%. I know I'm being a little nitpicky here, but, you know, 30% is the standard. I want to get as high as I can on that turn meter fill. It's so important for an arena setup champion, which he's clearly meant to be. He's meant to be a setup reviver, kind of like Arbiter, right? The AoE on the A1, I would love to have seen some sort of control here versus a heal. It's not the end of the world, and certainly can help you in other areas of the game, but I would love like a block active skills or something like that. He's not really a debuffer though, so I guess the heal is okay, I guess, right? Overall, though, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and talk for a half an hour about this guy. I think he can help some accounts, but he's really nothing special. I'll give him I'll give him a C+. C+. If you want to be kind, maybe a B-. Let's get to the Fusion Champion. This is a high elf. Certainly not necessarily what we needed here. Lysanthir Beastbane. I've seen actually opinions pretty divided on this champion. I released a video saying that I'm probably going to go for the fusion. I am kind of going for it right now. I'm not going to sweat it if I miss out on it. I don't think he's a must fuse. I think he's far from it. I think he's pretty meh, like solid if you need this sort of a skill set. But I was very underwhelmed by the damage that I saw him putting out on, I watched Nubraid's video on him. He has a Hex on his A1. The increased crit damage makes it seem like he's going to be a Mischief tank, but the rest of his kit is not meant to be a Mischief tank. So he's bringing increased crit damage on himself. Very interesting there with the increased crit damage on the A1. Single target Hex is cool, but we really want an AoE Hex, right? Wiley Hunter, 3-turn cooldown. Attack one enemy 2 times. 20% chance to repeat the attack. A lot of people in my comments when I shared this kit for the first time said that they thought this was going to be an enemy max HP ability. And that would have really changed things, but alas, it's not. When this champion counterattacks or teams up with an ally attack to join an attack, we'll use this skill instead of the default skill. The damage inflicted by this skill increases by 10% each time an ally is devoured, stacks up to 50%. So he's like clearly meant to be. When you see devoured in the kit, he's meant to be a Hydra clan boss champion. Rune Snares on the A3 ability. It's an AoE ×2. Each hit plays a decreased speed and a weaken if they're under a Hex. These debuffs will be placed before attacking, which is nice. You know, not bad. Not bad damage, not insane damage from this skill. But it's a decreased speed and weaken. Those are 2 of the most essential debuffs that you need in Hydra, right? And then ignore life barrier and ally protection buffs. Increases champion's defense by 5% for each active buff on this champion. Stacks up to 50%. So he's better than Iudex, right? Can say that. Defense in all battles, by the way, by 28%. The aura's okay. The whole kit is okay, right? Nothing wrong with this kit for Hydra Clan Boss. And I think that most of you guys will probably know. Do I need a weaken and a decreased speed champion with a little bit of damage on Hydra Clan Boss? If so, then he's worth going for, right? If not, then he's probably worth passing. I will say that they feel like two completely different champions in some ways, but they were both fusions. And I will say that Estrid is far, 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 far superior, even when it comes to damage. And I say that because she brings a decreased speed and a weaken on a 3-turn cooldown with turn meter reduction, but then she has an extra turn, increased speed, increased attack. Now this was a fusion, you know? Not everybody has her, I totally get that, and it might make sense going for him. But man, Estrid is just way, 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 way better in almost every way. I guess not ignoring or life barrier and ally protection does give him a little bit of an edge, Lysander. But I am not like blown away by this champion. I'll give him a B-. All right, we have this champion. This is a Lizardmen legendary. And I saw that he was on a boost yesterday. And I almost pulled. I've been hoarding my sacred shards. I have like 22 or 23. And I thought about recording a video and just going all out for him. I think he's very, very interesting. He's a support champion. He's blue affinity. He's a lizard man. He looks pretty cool aesthetically. Like I like the look on this guy. I don't love it, but I like it. I like the staff. The bee staff? Cool. All right. His base stats are great. His speed is really solid at 109 as well. An AoE on the A1. 75% chance decreased speed for 2 turns. Steals 5% of each target's turn meter, steals 10% of each target's turn meter if they're under a decreased speed. Now, can you already see the difference here between this champion and what we've been talking about so far? You can tell which one's free, which one's a fusion, and which one's not accessible, unless you're lucky enough to pull them from a shard. Very, very good. To have a 75% decreased speed in the A1 is incredible in this game. Incredible pretty much everywhere, specifically Hydra. Krisk and the standard, the Mother of Cybils, the Krisks of the world, is 50% on an AoE on the A1. He's got 75. Thresh Master. 3-turn cooldown, attacks one enemy, put all their skills on cooldown. 100% chance to when booked of decreasing the target of the turn meter of all enemies under sleep by 15%. Has a 100% chance when booked of decreasing the turn meters of all enemies without sleep by 30% instead. Will make more sense when we get to the rest of the kit. Sleep Stingers. His A3 is a 4-turn cooldown, attacks all enemies. 100% chance of placing a sleep debuff on all enemies for 1 turn. Will ignore block debuffs buffs. That's huge. Otherwise, I would think his kit kind of sucks. But ignoring block debuffs, that changes everything. The other thing that changes everything, grants an extra turn. So we can come in the arena. We can sleep even if they have a Seifi or a Duchess or whoever the heck they have. Lazarius. Doesn't matter if we go second. We sleep them all anyway. Kind of like Lady Noelle's Freeze, how powerful that is when it can ignore block debuffs with Sir Nick on the same team. Same kind of vibe here. And then we get the extra turn. We immediately go in, put all of somebody's skills on cooldown. What a great control 1-2 punch, right? And then decrease turn meter of all enemies with sleep, who we just put to sleep, by 15% or 30% if they resisted it. Very strong 1-2 punch. Weed Out makes them even better. Passive. Whenever an enemy attempts to increase their turn meter, decrease the value of that turn meter effect by 25%. Active effect. Whenever a sleep debuff is removed or expires on a target, instantly activates the Thresh Master skill on the target. That's the A2. Does not work if the sleep debuff is removed by damage. So if it just expires, they get their turn, but they fall to sleep. Or if they get cleansed, then we, boom, go in and put their skills on cooldown, right? Very, very cool. Very cool. Now, it's a 1-turn cooldown, but still, I really like this kit. Very interesting. Accuracy in arena battles on the aura. I'll give him an A+. TBD. All right, we have a Void Legendary before we get to the Fusion Epic. It is a Sylvan Watcher, and she is on a boost right now, by the way. She's very interesting. I don't know her multipliers yet because they're not posted online yet. And we really need to see the multipliers on this champion. So far, the 4 reviews are don't think very highly of her. I think she looks really cool, right? Really getting that Pixie / Sylvan Watcher vibe with the kind of very similar staff that we just saw there. Look at, I'm moving up in the tournament passively, playing passively. I like it. Attack 1 enemy on Hex Bloom. Fills a champion's turn meter by 10%. Fills a champion's turn meter by an additional 10% if the enemy is under a hex. Counterattack with this skill when hit by enemies under a hex. So you get a lot of A1s cracking off all the time. Attack-based champion, 1498, not very high on the attack. Also, very low on the HP. Bit of a glass cannon. An AoE ×2 and a 3-turn cooldown. Damage increases by 10% for each enemy under hex debuff. Will ignore shield and strengthen buffs. Also will ignore block damage buffs on enemies under a hex debuff. Fills the champion's turn meter by 30%. Fills the champion's turn meter by additional 20% for each enemy killed by the skill. So this is a weird one because it feels like it's a Hydra ability at first, and then it feels like it's an arena ability by the end. Problem here is I'm not blown away by her multiplier potential, right? Damage increase is nice, but ignore defense is way better, you know? It's not like this damage increase is permanent and it stacks throughout the duration of the battle. And again, I'm not super hopeful. I'm happy to be wrong, though, with the damage potential here. If I had to guess, I would just guess it's like a 1.9 times 2, maybe a 1.8 to a 2.5 being the high is what I would guess for the multipliers on this ability. I like the turn meter fill. That's really cool. I love the ignore block damage. Block damage is all over the arena meta right now, but it doesn't seem like the rest of the kit because we're not, I mean, it's a conditional block damage. You have to place the hex first, right? I don't love it. I don't love it. Mind Snare Cloud, her A3 ability is a 3-turn cooldown, win booked, increased accuracy on all allies, 100% chance of placing Death Brand debuff on a target enemy for 2 turns, 100% chance to place a Hex debuff on all enemies for 2 turns, then fills the champion's turn meter by 50%, fills the champion's turn meter by an additional 10% for each debuff placed by this skill. Also, block damage on this champion for 1 turn. Okay, now we're talking here. Death Brand, like Queen of Hearts, first champion to have it, is going to deny revival if they die with a debuff on, right? It's kind of a nasty little debuff there. It puts you like on check if you're the enemy team. You feel like you're about to be checkmated. You got to get rid of that damn debuff. So many teams revolve around deaths being an acceptable thing in the arena, and you need revivers. That's why this arena is so revive heavy. I love the turn meter fill of 50%, potentially more. I mean, it could potentially be 100% turn meter fill, or very close to, on the A2. I love the increased accuracy. It helps build her as a nuker and land with the debuffs that she needs to land. It can also set up by getting the turn meter fill to lead into the A2. Now we can ignore the block damages, right, of the Siegfrieds out there and everybody else who has block damage right now, the Odins, right, because they're under the Hex. What I would love to see from a Void Legendary, a brand new Void Legendary, to really get me excited, especially with these base stats, is some more speed and survivability, first off, right? I would love to see some sort of mechanism to remove at least 1 buff from enemies, right? So that's what I would love to see there as well. To place the Hex, right? Because placing the Hex is going to be the problem. There's no ignore block debuffs here in her kit. If this champion kills 1 or more enemies in the battle, ignore 10% of target's defense. If she kills 2 or more enemies in the battle, she receives a shield 40% of their max HP for 2 turns at the start of their own turn. And if this champion kills 3 or more enemies in a battle, each attack will decrease the target's turn meter by 10% that can't be resisted. This is really cool. Fang Lilac Frenzy, okay. It's a cool ability. I like it. So she powers up over time. Overall, though, I'm intrigued, yet kind of prepared for not a great champion here in terms of damage. So she needs to deal some serious damage, right, to make her worth it. But then again, I'm very open-minded, right? Even with the reviews out the gate being very low on her, I think that she could have some potential in some areas. She gets a 5 on 1 rating in Hydra, right? Maybe even though it screams arena with all the block damage and the Death Brand, maybe there's some PvE potential for her as well. Maybe even in areas like, obviously, in Faction Wars 2.0. Out the gate, though, I'm going to say she feels like kind of an underwhelming Void Legendary, although an interesting and very dynamic kit. A lot going wrong, so I could be wrong on this one. But first impressions, attacking all battles, first impressions, I would probably say B+, you know? And who knows? That could be way off. Skinwalkers. All right. Here's the Skinwalker Epic as part of the fusion. This is Yuzan the Marooned. He has pretty good ratings so far. Let's see what he has. HP-based champion. Attacks 1 enemy, transfers a random debuff from this champion to the target, heals the champion by 10% of their max HP. I love transferring debuffs to the target. It's a nice little add-on, right? I love stealing buffs even more, though. Thundering Charge is A2 abilities and AoE attack. 100% chance of removing 2 buffs from all enemies. Heals this champion by 10% of their max HP for each buff removed by the skill. Okay. Good Luck Charm removes 1 random debuff from all allies on a 4-turn cooldown when booked. Heals all allies by 20% of this champion's max HP and places the block debuffs on all allies for 2 turns. Solid ability. Block debuffs very hard to find on epics, and when you do find it, a la a Ayala Life Braid, for example, it's almost always on a 4-turn cooldown. You know, I checked the Wenderin, kind of the same deal there, right? Kind Soul. Whenever this champion heals, or you see it on a 3-turn cooldown, block debuffs, but only a 1-turn duration, a la Mausoleum Mage. So it's a good ability here. Kind Soul. Whenever this champion heals himself using his skill, also heals all allies by 20% of any surplus heal. So that's the A1, that's the A2, and I guess that's the A3 too, because it heal potential on the AoE. Resistant all battles by 40. I think he's a pretty good HP-based support champion, right? Can help a lot of players, Centranos, areas like that. He's certainly far from the best epic in the game. I'll give him a B+. I think that's a fair grade. I'm not sure if he feels very voidy, though. You know? Void, I have a high standard. But definitely a great for wave content. Great for support, healing, buff removal. He's doing a lot for Faction Wars. I'm sure a lot of players can use this guy. So if you're not going for the fusion, I would definitely pick up Yuzan at the very least, right? Pick up one copy of him. We'll end it there, guys. Those are the new champions. Let me know, like, if you like this video, if you want to see me cover new champions here. I stopped doing it years ago on my main channel, but I figured it could be a good spot to kind of talk, long-winded albeit, but talk a little bit about new champions headed to the game. So let me know if you like this. If you don't like it, let me know as well. Give me a thumbs up or maybe a thumbs down if you don't like it. Thanks for watching till the end of the video. Much love, and as always, take care, guys.